Hey guys, welcome back to another video here at the Decent Garage. In today's video, we're going to be working on a dirt bike for my wife. So if you remember a couple months ago, I had a video about picking up 5 dirt bikes, and this was one of them that I wanted to fix for my wife. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I'm going to diagnose it and how we're going to get it running. So let's get started. So one of the first things you want to look at when you're buying a dirt bike is whether it has compression or not. So I check compression on this and it does not have compression. And how I know that, when I kick it over with my foot or even with my hand, I feel no resistance, I feel no compression building up on that compression stroke. I could put a compression tester on here, but this one is so obvious that I don't need to. The next thing I look at is whether it has spark or not, and that's very simple to do. All you do is pull the spark plug out, put the spark plug back in the spark plug wire, and then hold it about a ½ inch from the case of the engine. And then what you do is just kick the engine over a little bit while you're holding the end of the spark plug by the case, and you should see sparks jumping from the spark plug. And in this case, luckily, I have spark on this bike, so that's a good sign. Not having compression may be a deal breaker for some people, but for me, especially for the cost of this bike, it's not a deal breaker at all. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna dive in and try and figure out this compression issue. So before we do that, I've got to get the seat and some of the plastics taken off so we can access the motor better, and then we'll move on to figuring out why this doesn't have compression. So typically, if you pick up a bike and it doesn't have compression, most people think, yeah, it's got to be the top end. The rings are shot, or the piston's shot, or something in the top end is shot. And usually that is the case. I'm hoping I get lucky in this case. What I'm going to do before I pull the whole top end apart is I'm going to check the valve clearances first. If the valve clearances are way out of spec, the valve could be stuck open, which could also mimic the signs of not having compression. So I'm hoping we get lucky with this one. If we do, that'll be great, but if not, we're going to dive further in and see why we don't have compression. All right, so we got the valves adjusted, got everything put back together. I'm gonna So it actually feels like it has more compression. You can also hear the compression stroke. So it is improved, but it doesn't feel like it has a lot of compression. So at this point, I'm gonna throw my compression tester on here. And ideally we'd check the compression with the engine warm, but it's not running. So we obviously can't do that. We're gonna check it cold and see what we get. All right, so we're getting 90 PSI cold, which I'm gonna look it up right now, but I think that's a little bit low, but maybe if it's cold, it might not. Let me look it up real quick. After doing a little research, 90 PSI is on the very low end of what we want for this bike. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna pull the top end off, see what the issue might be, whether it's the rings or the valves or the valve seals, whatever it may be, and we'll order everything we need to put this all back together and get it running. All right guys, we got the head and the cylinder taken out, and I found the problem. So this is the piston, and you can see all these chew marks on the edge and then big old chunk out of it there. So the top ring on the piston somehow came apart, came up in the combustion area, scored the piston a bunch. The head, the valves look okay. A lot of little nicks around here, so I'm going to see if I can grind that out carefully without affecting the surface of the head. Now my thought here too was if the cylinder was okay, I was just going to run a stock piston, stock bore, and put it back together. The cylinder looks really, really good, except for right up kind of a ½ inch down from the top. There's some scoring probably from when that ring let go. So basically where I'm at, it's going to cost $100 to get this board out. It's going to cost $120 to get a new piston. and then 40 or 50 more to get gaskets and rings and everything. So I'm going to order the BBR 150 big bore kit instead. That comes with the piston, the cylinder, the new cams, forced upgrades, I guess you could say. All right, so I wire wheeled the valves. The part that the rockers mount on is really hard to get out of these heads. So what I'm going to do is do a leak test on the valves real quick to see if it's even worth pulling them, because I can replace the cam without pulling the valves according to BBR's instructions. So we'll do a leak test real quick. I put the spark plug in. We're going to fill it with gasoline and see if anything leaks out the intake or the exhaust valve. All right, so we've got the combustion portion full of gas. What I'm going to do is blow some compressed air in each port and see if we get bubbles. Intake looks good and exhaust looks good, no bubbles. So I'm going to just put the BBR cam in there without even taking the valves out. So if we had a bent valve or one of the seats was chipped from that piece of the ring, we would find that out right there. The gasoline would leak through, especially when we're getting compressed air behind it, trying to lift that valve up. We would know we'd at least need to lap these, if not get the seats recut. But this looks good. I'm really happy because I was not looking forward to pulling those out. All right, so we got our BBR kit. This came really quick. I'll put a link to this in the description. It came with some good instructions, gaskets, a couple stickers. Got our cylinder. So our cylinder, rings, piston, and cam. And wrist pin. All right, so we're gonna get the rings on the piston, get the cylinder over to the bike, get the piston in the cylinder, wrist pin on and everything, and then we'll come back and do the cam on the head and reassemble. So the instructions on this BBR kit are very clear, very easy to do, so I'm not gonna walk you through that. Alright guys, doing that cam was a pain in the butt until I figured out how to do it. So the instructions talk about changing the cam without pulling out the rockers, and what they do is say depress the exhaust valve first and then pull the cam out a little, and then depress the intake valve and pull it all the way out. I was trying to depress it right there, but all you have to do is stick a screwdriver right up in here and push down on the whole rocker. Basically what I was doing was keeping the rocker engaged on the cam lobe and it wouldn't come out. So save yourself some trouble. Stick it right up here. This is too small, but I used a big one, and then just push down, and then it's super easy to do. So I got it done, but it was a pain. We're gonna put our cam keeper in there and start putting everything back together. I'm gonna set the valve lash first, and they say in the instructions the proper valve lash. So let's do that and then we'll get it all put back together. Alright guys, I've got the top end all put back together. I've got to put the head bolts on and torque them down. And then I'm going to just put the carburetor on and replace the seal for the shifter that's leaking, and then change the oil, and we'll see how it goes. So wish me luck. Alright guys, I got it all buttoned back up. Everything's hooked up. So what I'm going to do is kick it a few times with the key to the off position to get some oil up in there from the oil pump. Definitely more compression. All right, it starts as burning a bunch of oil off that dripped on the exhaust, but it runs good. The carb needs adjusted. It's not idling, so I think we need to adjust the carb a little bit. I might just wait to put the new carb in, but I'm going to order some new plastics, levers, a battery, air filter. So as soon as I get that stuff, we'll button it all up, and then we'll take it for a ride. Alright guys, there we have it. This bike turned out awesome. This is a blast to ride. It's becoming my favorite bike so far. Super fun, super peppy with that big bore kit, but it turned out amazing. I hope you guys learned a little bit from this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to check out the website for any merch you might want. Thanks for your support, and we'll see you guys in the next video.